All right, some exciting things to talk to you about today. Here are the headline announcements for Microsoft 365 Copilot that have come out of Microsoft Ignite. I'm framing this in the structure of a top 10, but you know you're going to get more than 10 things in here. I'm going to come back at the end and point out sort of the 3 really key things that I think you need to take away from this, but I'm going to give you a lot more than that. We're going to go through this in the following order. First of all, the most important thing you need to know about what's happening with this license, and it's a very good thing, huge new benefit. Then we'll take a look at some new experiences in the business chat, the BizChat experience that sits on the web or Teams. Lots of stuff coming into the Microsoft 365 applications, Teams, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, Word, not necessarily in that order. And then finally some things that are going to help with adoption, and then my sort of top 3 things I want you to take away. So number 1 here, SharePoint Advanced Management is now included in your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. This is a really big deal and a really, really big benefit. This means you don't have to necessarily start by paying for Purview and other services to get that data security sorted out. So SharePoint Advanced Management is something that can help you with these things: content sprawl, oversharing, managing the access and control. And those first 2 things are the most common things that are blocking organizations from going ahead. They're concerned that they've shared a whole SharePoint site and everyone's got access to things. So there are a lot of other tools coming through. I'm seeing a lot of things from Microsoft around making it easier to overcome that blocker of the concern about the security of your documents. Incidentally, Copilot is not the cause of this. If you've got a problem with the security and control of your underlying documents, you've got that problem whether you have Copilot or not. It's just that Copilot makes it easier to see that you've got a problem. So wherever you're at in this journey, it's a good idea to take advantage of those things. But now, with your Microsoft 365 Copilot license, you're getting this incredible tool that is going to make all of that stuff a whole lot easier for you to get started. I'm always happy when I get to talk about a licensing change that means, hey, you're now getting more for your money. So it's a good one. Next up here, agents in Copilot, and this is in the Microsoft 365 experiences. So there are 5 that are being announced here. We've seen some of these before, actually. Agents in SharePoint was announced back in September. This is where you can go into a SharePoint site and just click in and say, basically create an agent to reason over those documents and answer questions from those documents. So that's becoming generally available. Some of these other ones, we saw an early concept of these at Build, but they've come further and there's more of them now. So let's take a look at a couple of these just to give you a sense. So these are pre-built copilots for sort of common situations. One of them here is called a Facilitator, and this is basically one that's going to start taking real-time notes and help you out inside your meetings. So you're inside a meeting here and you can see the AI generated notes. So if you've used Microsoft 365 Copilot before, probably most of you have if you're watching this video, but welcome along if you're new to this. The idea so far is that you can get this meeting recap and you can ask questions. That's a thing that we can do already. But this pre-built agent now is like a live note taker sitting inside the meeting, and you can collaborate with it. So this is very much like this experience of having an assistant taking notes live. Watch as we go along here. There's quite a lot of these experiences that are lifting out of not just chat, not just I chat to a Copilot and it chats back with me, but these collaborative experiences between people and Copilots. And this is the first example, but we're going to see more of these. So the idea here is that the Copilot is working in this collaborative little piece, and people in the meeting can go in and make those corrections and additions, and you're basically generating those notes as you go along. We've also got something here where it can generate an up-to-date summary of the important information in a Teams chat. Have you ever been in a group chat where you've been doing something else all day and you come back and there's a lot of stuff in there? So this is something where, again, the Copilot is like another member of the team sitting in the chat and can help you with that sort of generated summary down the side there. But this is existing inside the group chat, not just the meeting. So this is a bit of a new way of thinking about it. So that's that Facilitator agent, which we're going to see soon. The other one here is the employee self-service. Now, this is something we've been able to build with the tools available in Copilot Studio for a while, well. But this is one of the most common scenarios that people want. It sort of sits inside every organization. So what we're seeing here is Microsoft building out, ready to use and ready to extend, something that you don't have to build this from scratch, because this is an incredibly common use case. I think this is really good. I think one of the biggest blockers with this technology is for organizations to understand what you can use it for. So having something like this that's pre-built and ready to go and ready to connect up with your line of business systems is a really good way for people to start getting their heads around it and then start to think about your other use cases. So our employee self-service pre-built agent here sits inside this BizChat experience. You can say, how many vacation days do I have left here? Now in this demo, this is the Microsoft demo that they're using to explain it to us. Obviously this would be connected up to your real systems and you need to do a bit of plumbing in the background to do that. So it's giving you the answer and it's showing you where that's coming from. So this is drawing from the Relic Cloud, which is the fictional organization that we're using here to actually get the users, the logged in users leave balance, but also linking to the time away guide in SharePoint, which is a policy that's explaining what's going on. So you'll see here that this is connecting to both that system of record and tracking of the leave balances as well as the policy that goes with it. Let's ask it another question here. What's our parental leave policy? So this is more of a policy type question, and this is where we can reason over the knowledge that the organization's got. Any agent use case, you're going to be hearing this a lot from me, where you are connecting it to your organizational knowledge, other high value use cases. Make that knowledge more available to your employees and to your business processes. And this is where AI for business really, really comes into its own. And this is a really nice, straightforward example of that. So you'll see here now, it's drawing from a few different things. We've got the Relic Cloud HR Web again, which is that system of record, as well as, in fact, a PowerPoint slide deck and a Word document. So it's able to reason over lots of different types of documents, not just Word documents or PDFs. And then it can take action. So this is the other thing, is you can say, yes, I'd like to put that request in. And this is a little component that sits in here where we've got, it already knows the name of Kat Larson, who's the person who's logged in here. She can fill in the start date and end date and submit, and that will go through. So that is one of the pre-built agents. There's about 5 of them. Watch this space, lots more to come here. Plus, we've also seen the capability that you can build your own agents, and I'm hoping that this one gives us inspiration for other things that we can do on the platform. Next up, we have Copilot Actions. Now we're going to take a bit of time here because this is a really interesting one in trying to figure out the overlap between AI and automation, and in particular here, a Copilot action and a Power Automate flow, if you're familiar with that. So this sits again inside this BizChat experience, and it starts off with some common actions and suggestions that you can go into. So there's a whole range of different choices that you've got available. We're going to go with this one on the top left here, which is to collect, synthesize, and share information. So this brings up a prompt as a starting point where you go in and kind of fill the gaps in the template, if you like. So when we've chosen that template, and you can build these from blank, but the example that we're seeing here is one where you're choosing a common scenario. I do love a template as a way for people to learn and get started. So this is like a pre-built prompt with fill in the spaces for what you want. So message who, and you can go in and choose multiple people from within your organization to do what, to collect, and you can put in information or whatever it is you want, and then do what with it and by when. So you've got the structure of that prompt. And in this example here, we end up with this prompt at the top. So the person has filled in the details to say, I want to message Lydia, Liz, and the launch team. So it doesn't even have to be just individuals, to collect status updates on this particular project, and then send a summary over email. This is interesting, right? Because I look at this at the start here, and this looks very much just like a flow that you could build in Power Automate. Let's send messages to these people, send a reminder, send a summary. At first glance, it looks like, isn't this just flow? It's not. I'm going to try and explain it to you. And please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing a heap more content on this, like agents versus automations and how it changes things. So if you're getting value out of this, this is a big area that I want to spend some time with you on. So what we've got here looks like a flow, but it's doing more than that. And there's one screenshot here that helps us understand this more. So what it actually does is when the agent is triggered, you'll see it's coming through. So this is being triggered and coming in saying it's via Copilot. So it's not impersonating the person, but it's acting on behalf of the person with this message. Hi there, I'm gathering status updates on Project Shore to share with our leadership team. Could you send me your updates? Now, if you were doing something in Flow, you might be able to send that message to everyone. And then what would they do? They would respond. Maybe you'd set up a loop component. Like you'd sort of still end up with basically a reminder type system. This is doing something more clever. This is bringing it into where these people work. It's sending them this little editable sort of card in here where you can see that this person is filling in the details. And then it takes all of that and compiles it back to the person who initiated this with all of the different contributions. So this is using a loop component. If you're not across Microsoft Loop, don't worry. Loop is a collaborative tool. And again, not the last time you're going to hear about Loop. Loop is a collaborative tool. It's like a little component where everyone can be live in their editing at the same time. And a lot of these underlying experiences coming through in Copilot and agents are actually giving you these loop components without you necessarily even knowing that. So they're really leveraging this ability to sort of create in real time in a collaborative way. This now has gathered all the information from those people and is putting it back together. You can see we've hovered over where this particular piece of feedback has come from. That came from Liz, and we can see the original thing. But now it's collating and summarizing, which we know is a thing that Copilot is very good at, and bringing all that together. And now I can turn that into an email as an update. So we're going to spend some more time on the channel on this. I want to talk to you a lot about this stuff because I think the overlap of the world of automation and copilots and agents just got amazing and confusing and exciting. So let me know if you've got questions about this. I'm going to try and answer them and make more content, but I think this is a really interesting example here and definitely a space to watch. You will then be able to monitor what's going on. So we've got a section here called Actions where you can see the different actions. You can choose to run them. You can see what's going on, and I want to play with this page to understand more about what it does. So more to come on this one. Next up, also within this BizChat experience, we have some enhancements to the concept of Copilot Pages. So just to level set, if you haven't come across Copilot Pages, because this was only announced at all in September, so this is new and now it's being enhanced. The idea here is that you've got this side-by-side experience between Copilot on the one side, the chat on the one side, and this Pages experience on the other side, which is, again, using Loop, this collaborative experience. So what happens is if you're chatting with Copilot and you say, hey, find me the report on this and summarize that and pull out a chart on this, you've got all of that sitting in the chat, but chances are you want to do something with it. This is an experience of using Copilot at work. I might want to take that and then share it with my colleagues and have them collaborate with me on it. So that's what this allows you to do, the Copilot Pages, is to take that experience from your chat and say, edit in a page. And then as the chat continues, you can start building out your content on the page, which allows you to take it somewhere else. So what we've seen at Ignite is the announcement of this going even further. Again, I'll come back and let me know if you'd like a demo of Copilot Pages. It's on my list of videos to make, especially once these new parts come in. But what we've got here is the Copilot on the left and the page on the right, but you'll see we've got a pretty chart in there. So the idea of being able to kind of create a chart, use Copilot to create a chart from this Excel document and then put it in here and have something where people can actually chat about that and collaborate on it. It's also going to be able to do these mermaid diagrams. So again, we're sort of getting a preview of something in Copilot here, of it generating something and then saying, yes, put it in there. So we're moving beyond just straightforward text and links here, and code if you are so inclined that you can do that and collaborate. One more thing here that we've got going on is that you will be able to work with multiple pages, so that rather than the experience at the moment, which is very much just like one Copilot chat with one page, you'll be able to say, oh, actually, I'm having another chat completely, the next day, and I've come across something and I want to add that into my page. So you'll be able to choose that there. So that whole world of Copilot Pages and taking the experience out of the chat and into something collaborative, powered by Loop, is getting a big uplift. Let's take a look at what is happening with the Copilot in the Microsoft 365 applications. We're going to run through, I should have written my order down, Teams, then Outlook, then Word, then PowerPoint, then Excel, I think. Anyway, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Teams is definitely first. So we've got a few different features in each of these, so I'm going to take you through each of them in turn. First up, Copilot in Teams. We have got the ability for the Copilot to reason over and understand information shared on the screen. So the first iteration of this was that the Copilot could recap the meeting based on the transcript, answer questions, provide insights based on your transcript. More recently, we saw an announcement that it could also reason over the chat, because there's a lot of content in a meeting in a chat. And so now, in addition to those things, we've also got it reasoning over what's on the screen. So if someone is sharing a presentation, it understands what's going on with that shared content and the shared slide, and that also becomes part of what you can chat about in the meeting. Similar kind of experience that we can get a summary of a file in a chat. So if someone shares a deck with you and you can just kind of go down the side and say, can you please summarize this? That'll be another thing that you'll be able to do. Moving on now to Copilot in Outlook. Copilot in Outlook has been It's getting a bit of an uplift. This hasn't been the strongest part of it, but there are a couple of things coming in here that I think are good. Still more to come here. So the first one here, this one was actually announced back in the September Wave 2 release, and recapped again, obviously, at Ignite, is this prioritize my inbox. I think this is a really interesting one. I haven't got this yet, so I'm waiting to see how it works for me. But this is where the Copilot understands the context of your role, who your managers are, who your manager is, some of us probably have two managers, who's your manager, who are your direct reports, who's in your team, and it can help you prioritize, basically sort your inbox by what it thinks is the highest priority. And then when you go in and open an email, it can tell you, this is why I think this email is high priority. And you can teach it by saying this message is high priority or not, and here's why. In this example, this is from a customer, Tailwind Traders, fictional customer, where this is an important customer for the person who's using this email. So you can actually tell Copilot, any emails from this customer are important. So that's the prioritize my inbox feature. A couple of things that have just been announced at Ignite then, well, it's really sort of one thing with two parts to it, is handling scheduling meetings. And I know this is something that everyone wants. This is the start of it. This won't go as far as you want. What this will do is enable you to schedule a one-on-one or focus time for yourself. Now, the dream scenario, and I don't know when we get to it, but the dream scenario is you want it to be able to go, schedule me a meeting with all these people who are external. We're not there yet. But this one at least allows you to say, hey, find a time when I can meet with my manager, and then it comes up with a suggested time. Notably, it's not doing the scheduling for you. You are in control, as you are with all of these Copilot experiences. It's a very core principle of the design of the thing, so you can choose to edit or send, and off it goes. The extension of this, kind of another feature, but similar sort of thing, is that you can use Copilot to draft the meeting agenda. So this example here is saying, I'd like to schedule a meeting to provide an update on this project and discuss the approval, and it kind of figures out an agenda for you. Obviously, this is a fairly straightforward example. I look at this one and think you probably could have just typed that, but this is very similar to any of those other experiences where you say, I'd like to draft an email about X, Y, or Z. Depending on the use case, it's either rudimentary or actually very useful. So this will be one to play around with. If you've got more complexity in there, then I think that's going to be very useful. Let's take a look now at Copilot in Word. Did I get my order right? I think I'm doing okay so far. There's quite a lot going on in Word. I'm actually really excited about the Copilot in Word as an experience. It's a highly valuable one. We've been able to use Copilot in Word to draft a document based on other content already. You could go in and say up to 3 documents, create my Word document based on this, this, and this. This one now is actually doing something a little bit better. Let me just play this again because it did go too fast. create a strategy, but it actually suggests the sources that you can use. So you'll see there it's bringing up things that are including not just other Word documents, but including PDFs, emails, meetings. So there's quite a lot. This is this benefit of Copilot being like in your Microsoft Graph and having access to all of those things. So now Word will kind of suggest, do you want to use all of these things to draft it? This one is actually, I think, going to be, you imagine anything where you have to pull together a whole lot of information and the time it takes. I think this is going to really help with that. Second one here is being able to have Copilot citing the sources when drafting. So it drafts a document and you want it to be able to tell you where that content came from. Again, let's just click back on this one and you'll see that it's actually coming through with a citation to say this is where it came from. So that content that's being pulled together, this is something I've actually had customers ask for, so I'm very happy to see this one in the mixed. Next up, we've got coaching. So if you've written something and you want to improve it, you can say get coaching on it. This is a little bit like the coaching inside of Outlook, where it can give you suggestions on how you might improve your writing. So depending on where you are, this is something that might be useful for you. We have Copilot in PowerPoint, some cool things here. This one's come a very long way since earlier in the year. If you tried Copilot in PowerPoint back in like March or April when it was relatively new, please clear your mind and come back to it. There's a lot more going on in here. So one of the things that was announced in September in the Wave 2 release was this thing called a narrative builder that allows you to get more structure. We are now going to be able to create a presentation using the narrative builder using an existing document. And you'll see here, rather than just the chat on the side where you say create a presentation from a document and just goes, here it is. This is one where it actually gives you the structure of the presentation. You can see you can iterate on that, bring another document in and kind of get the whole thing working and bring in those other data sources first and then go ahead and generate the slides. Generating a PowerPoint from existing documents is, I think, the strongest feature of this. Really happy to see that it's being enhanced into this narrative builder so that you've just got that more control over the first draft of what you're getting rather than it just being a one and done kind of deal. Next up, we have presentation translation. So if you're in a multilingual environment, I think we've got up to 40 languages coming in here, which is extraordinary. The language translation has gone a long way since it started. First couple of years ago when we first started looking at language translation, it was largely the major sort of European languages and not a lot else. You'll see here we've gone into Japanese, so different script entirely. So this is something where you'll immediately be able to translate your presentation into any of those other 40 languages, which is amazing. And we also have a couple more things here. This one is being able to create a presentation from a brand template. So this is the other thing that people are really keen to have. Obviously, most of us in a workplace need to create a template based on the brand. This is something that's started to come through, but it's relatively limited. So we're seeing some enhancements here as well. This one will allow you to create a presentation using brand images from Templify. I didn't know Templify, but I'm going to go and learn about that, as well as the SharePoint Organizational Asset Library. This is one I haven't kind of gotten that far into it, but again, let me know if you're interested in more on this. I think this one and the create presentation from existing files are kind of the two things that make this a high value thing for work rather than just a cool trick. And I'm very happy to see that we are now able to use Copilot with the text on the actual screen. This is something we haven't been able to do before. So we can go in there, again, I'll just kind of rewind and play that one again. So you can go in here and say condense, and this is actually able to rewrite the text on your slide to make it shorter. I would argue still too much text on a PowerPoint slide, but that's definitely an improvement. And last but not least, in our PowerPoint section here, we have the ability to just create speaker notes. So this is something where in the past, when you create the presentation from scratch, it will create speaker notes for you. But now you can actually just have something here where you say, please add speaker notes to the slides based on the content that you've got in there, and it will generate that for you. And finally, in our app series here, Copilot in Excel. The Copilot in Excel with Python, which has been around for a while, is going to become generally available only in the US as a starting point. I will come back to that at some other point. I haven't got my hands on that one yet. But the main new thing that has been announced here is this new Copilot in Excel Getting Started experience. This is interesting, right? This is actually basically allowing you to generate a templated, like a common sort of use case, or use this to describe what you want and then generate it. Up until now, the Copilot in Excel experience has only been for starting with an existing spreadsheet. So this lifts it up to be a little bit more equivalent with some of the other types of features here, and allows you to create a really common kind of use case templated scenario for things. So for beginner users, if you're not quite sure where to start, as I said, I'm always a fan of things that can help you start with something that isn't a blank page, and it kind of parallels many of the other experiences where you describe what you want to create it. So that will be fun to play with. All right, I'm going to wrap up here with adoption and measurement, but don't go anywhere. I'm going to recap the three things I want you to take away after this. So in the adoption and measurement side, we already have, this is live right now, the Microsoft Copilot dashboard included in your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. This gives you a heap of information about readiness, impact, adoption. This has actually come a long way quite fast. There's going to be some more reporting and things coming through here as well. And the other thing I want you to be aware of is a name change. We love a name. Did you really expect me to get through the whole video without there being a name change? Copilot, this is a good one though. Copilot Lab becomes Copilot Prompt Gallery. This is a better name for it. The Copilot Lab has been the place where you can go and get suggested prompts inside all the applications. It gives you ideas of things that you can use for prompts, which I think is really cool, but Prompt Gallery is a much better name for it. All right, my top picks. Here we go. And let me know in the comments what your top picks are. What do you think is most important? What is your favorite? But I'm going to give you three things to go away with here. The thing that I think is the most important announcement, the one to watch, and my just favorite, because I have feelings about these things. So the thing that I think is most important is that the SharePoint Advanced Management is included in your Copilot license now. This is where we started the video. This is one of the biggest blockers. It's one of the biggest concerns for organizations, is that they're worried about the oversharing and the data protection, and it all gets too complicated and too hard. Having this as part of the license is an enormous value add and an enormous way of giving you that confidence you need to get started with all of that amazing stuff that we've just seen, and so much more that keeps being added. My one to watch is this one around Copilot Actions. My first instinct is, but isn't that just flow? But actually, it's not. This screen in particular is the one that helps explain it. I'm going to get right into this one. This whole space of agents and automations and how we can automate business processes is the biggest area to watch. And then my favorite. Do you want to take a guess? Could you tell from what I was doing? It's actually this one in Word. I really, really am enjoying using Copilot in Word, and the ability to draw on all of these different data sources, including emails and meetings, and have Copilot suggest for me where I might find information, I think is really high value. Let me know what you think is the highest value. Let me know if you've got any questions. Stay subscribed, please, for more information on all of this stuff and other videos here about Ignite announcements. Thank you for watching.